and welcome to This Is the Switch 3. Let's talk about
We're
it.
not talking about Switch 3 because the Switch 2 has finally been confirmed. We've been talking about this console, I feel like, for like 3 years now. Let's break down what's new, what's official, and what is not yet official, but the leaks are heavily pointing toward. Bottom line, Switch 2, a real console that exists that will be shipping in 2025. Just they waited till after everyone bought a Switch for Christmas.
Yeah, I said they were going to do. You said they weren't. You're like,
I
no,
thought
they're
they
going
announced it
to
before.
announce it in November. And I'm like, no. They're going to milk this boy for all it's worth.
Well,
so
they have indeed.
I will say, to surprise to no one who watches this channel, I'm very underwhelmed.
I don't think you're alone.
I think, I want to give credit where credit's due. I do think the Switch design was quite nice. So I don't think they needed to reinvent the wheel. Keep in mind, we only have seen a render of this. Some of my thoughts might be changing when we see the physical. Everything I saw on there, I thought was the wrong choice.
Okay, so let's break it down. So first and foremost, we're going off of this trailer, which I will say is very heavily on visuals, very light on actual information.
There is no information.
Well, there's a little bit, but the thing is, almost everything we saw in this trailer correlates one-to-one with the leak. So we're gonna kind of mix it up a little bit, but Switch 2 is bigger. How much bigger? Hard to say. It's gonna be in the 8-inch range. I think it's pretty safe to say. Isn't that a surprise? I do think there are some advantages when it comes to like the controllers, but it's going to be less portable. It puts it on the same sort of realm as like something like an ROG Ally or Legion Go or Steam Deck. It is going to be a chunkier boy and certainly a wider boy.
This makes me wonder, though, where this sits. Because the first thing I'm gonna complain about is the screen. So looking at these renders, it looks like the bezels have not been shrunken down whatsoever.
There actually is a little bit of a reason for that. If you look at the way that the Joy-Cons attach, they kind of like go inside the console a little bit. So I do understand that they need a little bit of extra sort of space. But here's the thing, we don't know for sure. It seems like this might not be OLED. This actually might be an LCD display.
I doubt it's OLED.
Yeah. With the original Switch, both Switch and Switch OLED, they had to keep the same dimensions because they were tied to Joy-Con compatibility. But with the Switch 2, the Joy-Cons are now larger, which means that the entire console is no longer strictly sort of in that exact same kind of form factor. So it's hard to say with bezels until we actually see this thing fired up. But my thought is that they're maybe leaving some powder dry for a Switch 2 Pro in 4 years or something. But like,
look, this is a 8-year-old console.
Almost 9.
Almost 9.
Wait, yes, wait.
Almost 9. It's officially a preteen.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Don't like that.
Yeah.
Don't like that.
So looking at some like the laptops we saw at CES that had a 99% screen to body ratio, looking at this thing with these chunky bezels feels old. But with it being at that 8-inch size, this puts it in a weird spot of who is it for? I think 8 inches is a little big for a kid. At 8 inches, it's okay, it's competing with like an Ally, but we know it's not gonna have the power of that in this form factor.
If we're gonna dip into rumor town for just a second, the specs that have been floating around this week, the same rumors that told us that this was gonna be announced today, is that you're looking at somewhere around Steam Deck levels of performance in portable mode and somewhere a little bit south of Series S numbers when you're in docked mode. Now that's not counting all the DLSS and all the secret sauce in there, but let's just go with the assumption that we're in this sort of ballpark of Steam Deck kind of performance, which is fine. You know, that makes sense. That's kind of what we expected. It's not ambitious. I do hope that it's a little bit more than that. But the actual dimensions, I think, are actually a lot more important than you might think, because there are a few reasons why you want to go larger. One of which is you want to have extra room for battery and cooling, and the larger sort of physical design will do that. The Joy-Cons are also going to be significantly more comfortable for adult hands. If you have larger than 10-year-old hands, the original Switch Joy-Cons were not super comfortable. And also the fact that they're going to be magnetically attached. I was never a big fan of the flex when you're actually holding a Switch. It was always a little bit of flex. Hopefully this actually will like lock it in.
I'm worried about that. I love a good magnetic connector. It just look good like, that's the thunk.
Don't make that noise, please.
But you know someone's gonna get pissed off at a game and like, and it's like the whole thing, like, let's talk about the way the Joy-Cons dock. What I don't like is a port that physically sticks out. Even if it is recessed, that's susceptible to corrosion, that's susceptible to getting stuff stuck in there. If you do flex it and that breaks off, I would have preferred that particular connector be on the Joy-Con side. You're gonna have to replace your Joy-Con. That's cheaper than having to get the entire console fixed.
I do agree. That actually is a little bit of a weird choice. I think it's probably just for the physical sort of structure of it, so that when you magnetically attach, it also can click into place. And that way, if you're sort of flexing it, you've got the point of contact from sort of both sides holding it together.
I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt, and like this like lipped channel, like snug docking thing, I still think that there's someone gonna like, rage of like, ah, and then like if you bend forward, the whole thing's gonna like pop open.
Hopefully the Joy-Con pops off instead of critical
But if you're
failure.
popping off, if you pop off the two, your console just goes bloop.
I do think that there is merit, even though I'm a big fan of the Switch Lite, as I've said many times. The fact that this is going bigger than even the Switch and the Switch OLED, I think is probably a good thing, especially because every other like sort of handheld in the market is going bigger and bigger and bigger. But here's something else that I think we should talk about.
Yeah.
The Joy-Cons have some extra functionality this time. They showed a quick little clip of what looks to be some kind of mouse-like behavior. Now, it's going to be laying down as opposed to with the Legion Go, where it's more like a vertical grip. I think this is cool. I feel like this is the kind of stuff I was hoping that Nintendo would bring out for the Switch 2. Something different, something unique. There's some cool sensors on there. Like, give us something sort of different. I'm looking forward to seeing how that works. But I'll say that looking at the rest of it, that's one of the only things that's surprising or interesting or sort of unique. If you run through the rest of the hardware improvements, you're looking at an additional USB-C port on top. So you'll still be able to dock it like normal, but you can also plug it in on top for accessories,
everyone likes a good bottom and top.
I would say that that's a true statement. But on top of that, you're getting what I would say is a little bit of a bland design. You've got a new redesigned kickstand.
I think that that's a worse design than what we have on the Switch OLED. The solid flat one is sturdier. Some kid is gonna hold on to that thing like a handle. Yeah. It's just gonna be flopping around.
You know what though? I think the reason, so if you look at some of the photos here, I think they just wanted some more of the depth on the Switch for battery and cooling. Based on some of the leaks we've seen from like the motherboard and stuff, the battery's still not going to be that large.
I feel like we're going through the same beat that we went through with the Switch one of like, here's the pain point. The kickstand was pretty flimsy on the original.
Nothing's gonna be worse than the original Switch kickstand. So it's fine.
But like, I don't like that we waited 8 years for this. It feels like maybe they're making all the same mistakes.
Really, if we're gonna sum up sort of my initial first impressions, there's two things. One of which is, like there's nothing exciting here. I'm someone who's gonna absolutely buy one of these things, even though my support for Nintendo feels morally dubious at this point. I'm still gonna enjoy playing games on the Switch. I'm excited to play Mario Kart 9, and hopefully my Pokemon runs at more than 15 FPS. But like, there's two main sticking points here. One of which is, what a very low-key design. I do think some people are arguing that it's like, it's just a Switch Pro. I do think it is a full redesign, but it is about the safest, most straightforward, most, dare I say, boring looking design. Like, they even removed the color. The original Switch, it was so iconic with the orange and the blue Joy-Cons. This, especially once the Joy-Cons are on, there's like two little pops of color around the actual sticks, and that's it.
Well, because they got to resell you all these Joy-Cons. This is something I was afraid was going to happen, and it happened. Your Joy-Cons are only going to work on your Switch for Bluetooth.
Probably. They had to do that, though. If they were going to make the console bigger, they had to lose like actual physical Joy-Con compatibility.
I'm trying to be nice, but no. I've held my rage in for as long as I can. We had a GameCube port. Yeah. If you're gonna have something be almost identical in their own video, they're just like, whoop, we made it bigger.
That is actually the way they did it. Yeah.
I feel like that is a little borderline offensive. Xbox, they like. Yes, it's a new controller for the Series X versus the Xbox One, but they said, you know what?
Full compatibility.
Whatsoever. I think that's the way to have done it. If they say include some sort of adapter in the box that lets you snap on your old ones, I will completely change my tune. So they never fixed the Joy-Con drift. They never came out with a Joy-Con V2. It is nice that they say that your Switch cartridges will work on both of them.
I'm curious though, they didn't show what a Switch 2 cartridge looks like. My guess is we're gonna be like having like a Game Boy Advance or a Game Boy Color really scenario where it's probably like the same as a regular Switch card.
It's like a physical notch.
People are speculating that they're gonna release like cross-gen games or something. I'm a little bit doubtful, but we'll see. On the flip side, my biggest takeaway of all with the Switch 2, it's the smart move.
I don't disagree.
Nintendo released the Switch in 2017, and it is about to be the most successful console of all time. And when you consider the massive failure of the Wii U, even though I wish this had a little bit more sort of fancy bells and whistles, but like my bottom line is this. If you're Nintendo and you just sold 150 million Switches, why would you not just slap a 2 on the front and sell another 100 million of them? Like, it's not what I want. I really understand why they did it. I can't be mad.
I am fine with this design. I really am. The bezels look just ancient in comparison to a Steam Deck, in comparison to an Ally.
You said something interesting. You said that they had some mousy action, but like, do you actually think, because if you're looking at how those are designed, how would that work? And what would that do.
Part of the reason I say that is because the rumors had already sort of pegged that there would be some kind of optical sensor on the side. But if you look at the side, it does look like for a split second, you can see what looks to be an optical sensor there. That's my assumption, mostly based on the rumors. If I didn't know the rumors, I wouldn't have seen it.
The mouse click would be like the shoulder button.
And we're not gonna say it's an actual mouse, but it's like mouse adjacent.
This is probably gonna be whatever gimmick that they have that never gets talked about again 6 months after the thing comes out.
I can see, imagine Mario Kart, you know, like you're sliding it back and forth or something, or you're using it to select menus.
I don't think this is gonna happen, but unless this is running like a forked Android or something that you could do like, you know, oh, we could do like a browser or something like that.
I think that when you look at the Switch 2, there are two major upgrades here. One of which is performance. Obviously,
we don't know
significantly.
That. Conjecture, objection. There is not a spec on here.
Fine. We're exclusively breaking that it's the exact same Switch motherboard and there's no performance improvement at all. It will be more powerful. We know that it will be more powerful. I'm just assuming Steam Deck feels like a real safe kind of guess. You maybe have a little DLSS to actually kind of like bump that up a bit.
I just got a wonderful idea. So what if? This is not gonna happen. But what if?
Okay.
Valve offered SteamOS.
Oh, get out of here. Get out of here, dude.
On the Switch 2.
And Half-Life 3 is the launch title for the Switch 2? Yeah, sure. Again, we're saying Steam Deck-ish performance. There's no reason why you couldn't put all kind of games on this thing. What is stopping any developer who has a game that would work on a Steam Deck from putting on Switch 2? Obviously with SteamOS, it's sort of
well, they're going to wait for it to
Windows
sell another 20 million of them.
Well, sure, but look, is anyone going to doubt that the Switch is going to sell tremendously well?
No,
of course not.
Well, look, I'm not saying they're not going to sell a lot of them, but I do not expect them to sell as many as the Switch 1.
Regardless, the Switch 2 within the first couple of years is going to outsell every other like sort of PC handheld and Steam Deck out there. I think that's like a very safe assumption. So if you've got the performance with this, I do see a scenario in which there's going to be a lot more third-party support for the Switch 2. The main reason why the Switch 1 doesn't get so many ports these days is just because it doesn't have the performance. Even the conservative version of this is so much more powerful. The Switch 1 is a 2015 Android tablet chip. The fact that there are as many games on the Switch 1 that there are is a damn miracle as far as I'm concerned. There are still very nice looking Switch 1 games that are like very impressive, right? Yes, of course there are bad ports. I feel like I've been saying this for a while, and this feels like further confirmation of it. Switch 2 is going to be the right console for the time. I really do believe that because Nintendo have already set the playbook here.
What?
I know, I'm serious.
What are you talking about?
We actually just talked about this in our video the other day when we were talking about Windows handhelds and SteamOS and whatnot. One of the things that the Switch does really well is run quietly, coolly, efficiently with good battery life. Almost every other PC handheld freaking burning through the battery in an hour and a half. If the Switch 2 is as powerful-ish as a Steam Deck, you know it's gonna have a much more efficient processor. It's got an ARM-based chip. It's got an NVIDIA Tegra. It's gonna run cooler. It's gonna run quieter. You're gonna have good battery life. There's no way that the Switch 2 is gonna have half the battery life of the Switch 1, right? Like, they're not gonna do that.
No one's doubting that, but you're also assuming that Nintendo developers are gonna put any effort into making their games, which they don't do now.
You are a damn liar.
You're a damn liar. I said when I said it. Any Nintendo developer's like, you know what? You can have 3D graphics, you could have 30 FPS, or you could have 720. Pick one of them. Why does everyone give Todd Howard shit for reselling you Skyrim?
They don't.
The children yearn for buying the same game over and over again. They love Steam because I already paid for it. But then you give them a Switch and like, please let me rebuy this game for the exact amount of money that I paid for it 6 years ago.
But guess what? I get the opportunity to play on a Switch 2, which I'm hoping
you already have the opportunity to play it on a game and have it look better with the hardware that you have. I don't think I'm being exaggerating when I'm talking about everyone having Stockholm Syndrome, because what you're doing is you're creating a problem for yourself that you already have the solution to in your backpack right now. You have a Steam Deck OLED, which is going to be a better screen than the Switch 2.
True.
And what you could do is you could just turn down the settings a little bit when you're playing Baldur's Gate, which will then make it run quieter. It will give you better battery life.
It's less efficient, though. I think.
Oh my God! You're going to spend $300 to $400 on a device, rebuy the game, just so it can run a little bit better on a game you already own. People buy Nintendo products because they have their nuts in a vice over Nintendo to play Pokemon.
Yes.
Like, if they just say, I want to play the next Pokemon game, I want to play the next Animal Crossing game, and I need to buy hardware to do that, that's fine. The hardware is immaterial.
Say I can spend $400 on a Switch 2. I get to play all of my Pokemon games and all my Nintendo things, and I can also play all the games I would play on the Steam Deck sort of in a nice sort of low power sort of package, and I have the dock and everything included.
You're a low power sort of package.
Okay, this is going to be on sale later this year.
For the record, we're going to be close to a Steam Deck 2 by the time this actually goes on sale. We're going to be close to an Ally Y. We're going to be close to a Legion Stop. We're going to be close to PlayStation's whatever they're doing.
In April, we will get the full reveal. They've got a Nintendo Direct schedule where we're going to see probably Mario Kart 9, a bunch of games, and more detail about the actual Switch.
With a couple extra cars and a couple extra maps.
I love how happy you are. On top of that, there will be hands-on events. Switch 2 will be available to actually play in person in a number of cities across the world from April all the way through June, which pretty much puts a little date on it that is not going to go ship anywhere in the near timeline. My guess, probably September, maybe October. What do you think about the Switch 2? Are you hype? Are you gripe? Are you going to be a big old Matt grumpy sandwich? Or are you much more positive like I am?
They just made it worse for the consumer. I would have been so much better about this if they just didn't make it like, oh, here's this very breakable part.
We don't know that. It's boring, but I think it's good. Let us know in the comments below.
I know what PCBs feel like. And I know that I can snap them with my thoughts.
The ding-a-ling, I guess.
Like, follow, subscribe.
I'm very, very frightened. I'm not sure why.
I will snap this in half immediately.